Hey everybody, welcome back to Heavy Fallout. Today we're going to be talking about the moon landing and all the things that we just learned about a while ago that changed our minds from believing we actually landed to uh, knowing that we pretty much did not go.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
agree with that sentiment. I don't think that we went to the moon.
yeah, I was a believer for the longest time until
Yeah,
about
my whole life.
until
Until
about
recently.
year and a half ago. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of weird things that happened. A lot of stuff you've probably already heard of. Common conspiracy theories about the landing. But after pretty much deep diving it, we found a few other things that are interesting.
Yeah.
So as far as it's the Apollo 11 mission. So just to give a quick, we're going to go over the interview when they get back, but just to give you a timeline of how much time they had to recover when they launched and everything. Just so you know what state of mind they're in. So this is all 1969. So July 16th they launch. July 24th they get back. And then they're in quarantine until they do their interview on August 12th. So leave on July 16th, back on July 24th, and then they do the interview on August 12th. So they're gone for a month, away from people at least. So, but the main point of that is they're fully recovered. It's not like they just landed and they're doing the interview after, like they're fully recovered is the main point of this whole saying all that. So they get back and they're the nation's heroes. They walk on the stage. They get a standing ovation.
Yeah.
Everyone's
They've done
standing
the
clapping.
impossible.
Every-
They've gone
they
to the
are-
moon.
People are saying like they're the heroes of America. So just think about how they should be reacting in your mind if you haven't seen this, what you think they'd be reacting like, and then let's just watch the intro real quick. Let me pull it up.
Yeah. They're heroes. They've done the impossible. They've gone to the moon. It's the space race, America versus Russia. Russia's been beating us down. They've been winning.
Yeah,
And
so
now this is the knockout blow. We've gone to the moon, and here are our heroes who have returned.
yeah, they just walked on stage. They just sat down. They haven't really looked at the audience at all, but here they are. Everyone's sitting down.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Manned Spacecraft Center. This is the Apollo 11 press conference. The format
Like, do they look like returning heroes, or do they look like they're on trial for murder?
Yeah.
Followed by question and answers.
Like, not looking at the audience, looking down, not looking at each other.
Yeah.
Astronauts Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Edwin Aldrin. Neil?
Just their body language.
Yeah, like
Not good.
slow to answer, very
It was our pleasure to have
not
participated
ecstatic about this at all.
in one great adventure. It's an adventure that took place.
Looks like he just
He looks like he just beat a puppy to death against his will. You know, like,
yeah, it's like
that's what he looks like. He looks like he is about to cry.
it's like he just found out his dreams of going to the moon were never part of the plan, and
Yeah.
now he has to tell this lie that he's been working on for the last month.
Developing,
Yeah.
unfolding in the past months and years.
They look so defeated and just sad.
And that's because these are probably
Only
three.
positives.
Yeah, these are like three honorable guys. Okay, they're pilots. They're alpha males. They've been winners their whole life, and now they've been asked at the last second, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like, look, here's what I think. I think they told them, look, we can't make it to the moon.
But we have a
we don't
plan."
have it, but we don't have the technology. But look, if you just lie about it real quick, if you just go along with this story, it's a lie, and lies are bad. But this is a good lie. This is a great
This is gonna
lie.
help
It's gonna
America
help
tremendously.
the world. It's going to help the whole world.
And
And they went along with it, and that's why you're seeing this.
we're losing the race. We're behind. Like Russia's killing us at every point. Like getting the first person up there, getting a
A satellite.
satellite Sputnik up there. We're hitting like Apollo 1's getting ready to launch in 1967, so 2 years prior, January 1967, and they do a pre-flight test a month early for their flight, and the cabin or the command capsule, command pod or whatever, fills with oxygen. There's a spark, and they all burn to death on a static, unfueled rocket.
Smoke, the best
It's
of the
not
best.
going good. It's
Yeah.
that's their top team.
Yeah.
Apollo 1 gets smoked on the ground in a static rocket with zero fuel.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going too well for them. So they're like, hey, we figured a solution out. Like 2001: A Space Odyssey just happened. We have Hollywood. Russia does not. We've
Yeah.
got to fake this, or
Plus,
we've got to win.
Kennedy gave that speech in like 60 whatever, 2 or 3 or whatever. He gave this big speech where he's like, "We're gonna do the impossible things that we could never do. Basically, we're gonna go to the moon." Kennedy gives that speech.
Yeah.
Where he's like,
We're
gonna win this space race. We're the better society.
And you got to think this is the Cold War. Like we are basically at war with Russia, and the big kicker here is both these countries are just hemorrhaging money out for the space race.
Yeah.
And they're trying to keep up with what we're supposedly doing, so they're just dumping money into their space team.
Yeah.
And if we could win that, it would just annihilate it. It's like the victor of the space race is going to be the winner of the Cold War, basically, and be the superpower of the world.
Yeah. Whoever has the best space Nazis or whatever. Whoever has the best Nazis from, what was it, Project Paperclip or whatever?
Yeah, where we took all of Germany's.
We took Germany's.
We took half, and Russia took half of the scientists.
Yeah, we took half of their scientists.
Which is true. I mean, Wernher von Braun was the man that made the space race happen. He brought over like 100 of his scientists from Germany. It was part of the, willingly or not, I don't know. But yeah, he's like 90% of the reason we were successful with anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's this. If you have, this is a long interview. It's like an hour and a half, a little under an hour and a half. You guys should watch it. We'll go over a few quick points and then talk about some other ones. We can't go over them all. But there's another point where a German reporter asked them if they saw stars from the surface because it's so bright. Did you see stars from the surface? He has multiple questions at once, so I'm just going to cut to their answer. But the guy that never. God, I was good. Collins. He stayed up to the command module or whatever in orbit around the moon. He never landed, but he answers the question after Neil does, and it's like, just watch Neil's reaction, both their reactions to each other, because he, I think, realizes he messed up too, or he's joking. I don't know if he's just not buying the lie, but
yeah,
we'll take a quick look at that and let's see.
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any.
He's like, oh shit,
Neil, you were
good job, guy.
A little bit concerned. You said about stubbing your toe.
But they were on the surface. I think the walk was like 2 hours or so. But they were on the surface for like 21 hours. So they would have been there during nighttime and seen stars.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's all sorts of arguments for it.
And the guy orbiting should have definitely seen stars because he's not on the surface getting blinded.
Yeah.
So look, it's weird.
I'm not a scientist. I can't, whatever. But I do know that when you say stuff like I don't recall, you don't recall.
You either did or didn't.
What you saw?
Yeah.
Like, you were on the moon. This isn't a memorable moment. I know
you'd be looking at Earth.
Things.
You'd be looking at Earth. Everyone's like, you'd be looking up. It's weird too. Also, it's sort of sketchy. Like you're going to be looking around a lot because you're in an unknown.
This is crazy. You're on the moon.
You're
basically
on a different planet.
Yeah, it's totally insane.
You don't know what's on there. You'd be a little. I mean, we know that there's probably nothing living there, but it's still sketchy. You're far away from Earth.
Yeah.
You'd be a little like on edge looking around.
I don't recall if I saw any stars.
That's how a lot of the interview goes, though. It's like, I believe, I think, I don't remember exactly. It was
just like the simulations we ran in our training, like that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Collins does another thing where they ask him like how it was to be so far away from home, so far away from Earth, and his response is, well, we were a lot closer than you think.
Oh my god!
It's like, dude, he in that interview
dude.
says a lot of stuff that's like, I feel like he's fighting the lie. Like he's the one that they had to convince the most. The other two are like, okay, we'll do this for America.
He's bitter about he thought he was going to go to the moon, and he's bitter. Whoever these handlers are behind the scenes who are like, here's the story.
Yeah.
Stick to it. And he's like, I'll stick to it. But he's kind of bitter about it. So he's like, we weren't as far as you would think. That's something kind of like a.
He has a lot of there's a lot of joking
like,
things where like they like nudge him and stuff, and they're like, but
yeah.
Yeah, definitely take a look at that full video. But
yeah, and as you can tell, like we were saying, they are not, their whole body language, their persona. If you landed on the moon or whatever the equivalent to, well, land on the moon,
Yeah,
whatever,
just
Mars.
new moon missions.
Let's just say like Mars.
Or Mars.
Like you go to Mars, you wouldn't come back and be like, oh no, I don't recall.
Yeah, it's like you're a hero. Like,
My head down. You're a
you just won
superstar,
basically like equivalent to like these three guys just basically won a world war almost.
You're in a history book. You're the
Like,
man. You're
yeah.
definitely in a history book. If
You would be so like even like the way the reporters talk to them, they're like, "How is it being like the best hero ever? Like, oh, are you gonna just live your life? Are you gonna do anything else? Or are you just gonna live the rest of your life as heroes?" And they're like,
yeah,
it's
looking down.
so.
So
there's a lot of questions like that.
unenergetic.
Like everyone else understands how they should be acting and what it's like. You're the best heroes ever. Like this is crazy, and then they're just like,
Okay, so what would you say? Here's if I was going to argue for them, I would say, well, they're tired. They were in space.
well, that's what I was saying. The timeline earlier.
For what, 8
they've
days
been
or something?
chilling for 3 weeks. They were in
Okay.
space for like 9 days. 8
Okay,
days.
so 8 or 9 days. You're back for 3 weeks.
You're
Okay.
fine.
You're probably fine.
You're chilling with each other
Yeah.
in quarantine because they said possibly they got something from being on the moon. That's
All right.
their excuse. So one last clip from this, and then we'll move on from this interview because it's fairly lengthy.
Yeah.
This is them being asked like what this whole win for America means to the world. Like you're the first person on the moon. What does this mean for America? You'll hear the question, but just watch their mannerisms and how long it takes for them to even answer this. It's crazy. Let me pop it up for forget.
At the point of landing, because the surface was obscured by dust, do you see any way around that kind of problem
see if
for future landings on the moon?
1 second.
So much more pronounced.
As for
There you go.
many of us and
Sorry
many
about that.
other people in many places have speculated on the meaning of this first landing on another body in space. Would each of you give us your estimate of what is the meaning of this? to
Look at them
all
all
of us?
looking down, all like. It's like, Jesus.
Which one?
No, they're all like, no. Are you kidding me? None of you are gonna say anything.
Yeah. What are you, shy all of a sudden?
I believe
Test
that,
pilots?
what this
Thanks,
country set
Buzz.
out to do
Buzz Aldrin for answering this
Yeah.
something that was going to be done
with a
sooner or
super
later,
vague answer.
whether we set a specific goal or not.
That was
believe
going to
that,
be done.
From the early space flights, we demonstrated a potential to carry out this type of
Potential.
initiative. And again, it was a question of time until this would be accomplished. I think the relative ease with which we were able to carry out our mission, which of course came after a very efficient and a logical sequence of flights.
He's being super vague.
Yeah, and he's not committing to that he actually went. He's not saying.
On the right track when we took this commitment to go to the moon.
So I'm gonna cut
I
this.
think that
But doesn't it almost seem like they kind of avoid saying, well, when we went to the moon, I'm sure they have to say it a few times, but it's like you could tell it's not pleasurable. Because I know
They
if
don't
I-
want to talk about. They don't want to lie about this. They're lying to their country that they were supposed to
Yeah.
be heroes to.
They're trying to not lie as much as possible.
And that's the biggest lie they had to tell that during that whole interview is like just like they don't know how to talk about how great they are. Like, you guys, like how big is this for the whole world? Like, you guys are the biggest heroes. Tell us how big this is. And they're like, oh man,
it's like
this
someone
is
who has
So
cheated.
crazy. Yeah, you're like,
They're like,
But-
so, and that just seems obvious with that. And then
yeah. There's a whole bunch of other stuff.
telemetry data. is another
Yeah,
one.
so that's that. Yeah, so the telemetry data was recording. It's basically like your signal strengths of everything, your meters, your position in space, everything. Like just a log of everything that happened during the flight, where you were, and all that stuff. So sort of important for the first time going to the moon. Shows.
Yeah,
I mean, for
super
especially thinking about it a different way, like later missions. If something goes wrong, you can reference them and say like, hey, they did this different. They were doing this different. They burned. Why they burned so much fuel? Like different things you could
Yeah.
compare.
You could learn
That's
from
all
your
logged.
learn from your mistakes.
And it's your first time to the moon. You probably want to save that forever.
Yeah.
So that just went missing like really quickly afterwards. And NASA's like, well, we don't know where it went. It might have gotten overwritten, but it doesn't matter because we don't have the technology to play it anymore. So who cares? And that was like
That's
that was
insane.
a while ago.
Yeah, that's completely insane.
Well, then on top of that, which is very similar, is when they're on the moon, we've never seen the actual footage of them on the moon. You've seen the broadcast back, but the real footage, which was much clearer, had to be, not like it had to be as like my opinion, it had to be because it's recording to the actual film of the camera, which is recognized by NASA. They said it'd be much better quality. So you see this transmission that goes to Australia, it gets converted from was it digital to analog to broadcast to us, so it's being downgraded, stepped on there, it's being downgraded as far as quality, and plus the broadcast going through space. So we see this crappy version. The original, they said they either lost it or they overwrote the film.
Which is, once again, it's
So
just
no
like-
one's ever seen the original.
Yeah.
They lost it.
Yeah.
There's been a whole bunch of other stuff that's just gone
There's
missing.
just a bunch of stage lights and the key gaff guy and the
Yeah, they broadcasted it, and then in the stage they immediately
Yeah.
burned it.
Yeah.
Like burn this evidence now.
yeah.
So those two things were weird for.
That's super weird, and that's
sort of sketchy.
it is very sketchy. You wouldn't have.
This is the first time on the moon, and you lost like the most critical
Yeah.
crap for it.
we're just using it as a comment. No,
No, it's
that's
not.
not.
So a
dude.
common thing is they come back and they make many copies for. They call them PIs, professional investigators.
Yeah.
Of like the people like that look and do research on this amazing event. They are going to research it from NASA. They make copies for them all so they can all review it independently and to keep it forever. And it's gone. It's
just
gone.
It's just
Like
not
that South
there.
Park. And it's
Hey,
gone.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Look, we went there. Stop asking questions. All right.
Yeah.
And it's just that the way they're acting, the loss of the data and the video and all that is just
It's a lot of things not looking
Amazing.
so good. But then,
there's a ton of smaller arguments like the way that light hits.
there's a lot of arguments that you've probably heard of.
There's 100 of them.
You
Little
really
things
can't go
that
either way with them. You
can't
can't
go either
prove
way.
that they're right or wrong.
And not that we could even prove like
Even like
the way these guys are acting, we can't prove anything with that. But it's just that
just so many things together. Like you combine
Yeah.
the total amount of
indicators.
weird,
almost.
indicators that it's. So then a few other ones was like Buzz Aldrin coming back. He said twice in interviews that we never went. Like little girls, like why don't we go back? And he's like because we never went.
Yeah.
It was just about
Dropping
money.
hints.
And I was like, oof. I mean, I you could also say that he's just saying we never went back, or we never went.
But why
It
is he
was
so vague every time he
just-
talks about the freaking going to the moon? He's like he doesn't go
Yeah, he's very.
this date at this time.
Yeah, he's very
Like we
protective.
definitely
of it
went there. Yeah.
too.
Van Allen radiation belt. Did we talk about
Oh,
that?
we haven't. Yeah, that's another one that's really weird. So let me pull up a picture. But there's two. So the Van Allen radiation belt. There's two huge radiation belts going around the planet. Our magnetic field protects us. But anyways, extremely dangerous, extremely powerful. But you have to fly through both to get to the moon. The space station is under both of them. It's in lower orbit. I mean, they're leaving orbit, but let me show a picture of that. So they had to go through both with minimal shielding, right?
Yeah.
And even to this day, on multiple occasions in interviews that are not related to the moon landing at all, just random NASA interviews, scientists will bring up like, "Oh, the Van Allen radiation belt. This mission we're doing now." They're not thinking that they're debunking the moon landing by talking about it, so they're talking openly. They're like, "Hey, yeah, we don't know if we can even make it through there. It's super dangerous."
Because they're just assuming everyone's bought the story, and they've
Not,
even
not
bought
only
it.
is it dangerous,
They've bought it
but
too.
just like back in the olden days at airports, when you sent film through the X-ray machine, it would wipe your film. It would destroy it. So
Yeah.
that would definitely destroy the film they brought back.
Yeah, because the camera they had was just
An off-the-shelf.
off-the-shelf
Anyone
camera
could buy it.
put onto a
Yeah.
chest harness, and that's it. They didn't do anything special to it.
Yeah. So
And you can't really do anything special to those cameras.
yeah, but how
To
is it?
my
I mean,
knowledge, I mean,
how is it filming in space?
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
I don't
Like,
know.
it's got to be in a vacuum. I mean, I would be a little concerned. I mean, they probably.
I don't know
I would
about all
hope
that,
they
but
tested it.
The
maybe.
going through the Van Allen radiation belt is one thing. It being on the moon, okay, that's also going to mess it up. I don't know how
So
powerful
there's a
that
radiation
is.
belt.
And then
Yeah.
going back through the radiation belt again. I mean, you're going twice with that thing.
Oh, that's true.
So it's like
Just getting bombarded. But
allegedly. going through it twice.
Yeah, so even the new moon missions, the Artemis missions, like one of the, I was like second or third, don't quote me, but they had a module on board that was the mission for that launch or the future launch was to determine if a human could even survive going through the Van Allen radiation belts. It's like with a very sophisticated now protection system, armor, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
shielding, way more advanced because we have way better technology now, and they're still concerned. Like you should be like, oh no, they'll be absolutely safe. These astronauts live forever.
Yeah.
And they went through with
Look
nothing.
at the tiny thin. What did they have? Gold.
Paper thin, either aluminum or
gold and-
titanium.
yeah. Like somehow they made it through this thing. It's little things like that.
They just add up.
When you stick them all together, it's like, and then
Yeah.
on top of that, it's like people used to never believe the story because they were like, our government doesn't lie to us. But now I think everyone's pretty
So many conspiracies are coming
sure.
through. It's like,
everyone's pretty sure that your government almost always is lying to you most of the time. You know what I mean? Like they're lying to you frequently.
well, it makes sense too. It's just another one that makes sense, that like the reasoning behind it. So, did we talk about Stanley Kubrick?
No,
Like,
we haven't yet.
so yeah, so he just did the movie a year before 2001: A Space Odyssey. He's big into the whole Cold War. He did that Doctor Goodlove or whatever. What's it called?
Strangelove?
Strangelove. About the nukes a year before that or 2 years before that. So all about the nuclear war. So he's all into this. And then a year before the launch, he makes 2001: A Space Odyssey, and everyone's saying, "Oh, it looks like they're really in space." And
Yeah.
then a year later, he makes this. That's the theory. Everyone's saying it's definitely if it was done, it was by him. He had the studios and everything. But then, so 1969 is the launch. He makes a movie, The Shining, which everyone probably knows about, the horror movie, in 1980, and
It's got a ton of Easter
so
eggs.
many Easter eggs for Apollo 11, and like
Yeah.
some aren't even like I wouldn't even call it an Easter egg. Like if let's see what the main character's wearing.
Yeah.
Let's pull this up. So here's the. I don't know, could you call this an Easter egg when the kid's wearing an Apollo 11 sweatshirt?
Yeah.
11 years after all the launches have been complete. It could be any Apollo,
Yeah.
and he's wearing this. And then there's like rockets on the wallpaper. Some are saying the carpet looks like the launch pad.
Something about the room number to the door he goes in. It's like the amount of hundreds of thousands of miles or something.
So,
that
yeah,
moon is
to
from
the
Earth,
moon.
something
It's
like
like
that.
yeah.
So, whatever. That's interesting, but
Little, I mean, yeah, it's just a little. That's just
Little-
basically our Easter egg. To
yeah.
it's just like just some random weird stuff going on with it. But what else? There's a few other things too, though.
Yeah, I mean, all the other things are like super. They're the arguments that have probably been the biggest arguments over the years, but they've been debated, and they're very like on the fence. It's like it could go either way for a lot of the stuff. Some of it's just total, It's
Yes.
just
Well, another
BS.
thing is like there's a lot of arguments for the landing, saying like, hey, now you can see the sites, the actual modules that were left behind.
Yeah,
you
from
can see them
who-
from Earth.
who's
It's like who's taking the pictures is one, but even if they are, it's like that's another one. You could go either way. It's been so long. We did the Mars missions that all failed pretty
if
much.
someone independently.
They
like,
could have just been going to the moon and planting stuff to hide their tracks.
if someone independently was able to get like pictures of the footprints, the flag, all that
two
stuff
other-
independently on
Why are other countries not allowed? They're not allowed to land near our landing sites. That's a weird thing.
I don't know.
China has to land on the other side of the moon. It doesn't have to, but they can't land. It's been like a rule that they can't land near each other.
I'm pretty sure they're going to do whatever they
And
want to do.
every astronaut that's been to the moon, a lot of them are really, really against SpaceX trying to do the same thing. Like they are very vocal about it.
Yeah.
That should be allowed.
How
SpaceX
crazy would that
should
be
not
how crazy would that be if SpaceX got their shit together and they sent a guy up there, and a guy goes up there and he goes, okay, we're landing where they landed. There's absolutely nothing here.
He's like,
What
what is all
going
this?
on?"
This is all just garbage they put here.
Yeah.
Something crashed into the moon here.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
It's Buzz Aldrin's skeleton.
The real
They
Buzz.
just did a body double on Earth.
Well, nothing to see here. We told you shouldn't go. It's like just ridiculous. There's that other astronaut, that was always he was up in the space station a lot, and someone asked him in an interview
Yeah.
if he wanted to go to the moon. He said, absolutely, I'd go to the moon in a heartbeat or a millisecond, whatever he said. And then he said, but unfortunately, NASA's destroyed all the technology to go back, so we can't go back.
Yeah.
It's like,
Come
what?
on, dude.
Okay,
outta
you
here.
can't make another better.
No, they
Like,
can't because
come on.
they never went.
Yeah.
It looks like they never went. They've just been. This was all just like, and now it doesn't even matter anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's like, come on, dude.
Well, we just eat all these lies up like nothing else. Like,
So what do you think, man? The scale 1 to 10. What do you think this?
you know what? I would
one
say
being total garbage. Okay, as
this
far here, how
one
about
is
this?
we definitely went.
10 is we definitely
Did
went to.
not, no, 10 is we definitely did not go.
How about okay? 10 we didn't go. 1 we definitely did go. How about that?
I would say for this conspiracy, I would say it's a 7. Or no, I'd say it's an 8. I think one day the U.S. government will say like, hey, because they open up about like some stuff they should not. Like, hey, we didn't go. Like, we faked it, but it worked. I think it's like an 8.
Okay, so like 8, like very high probability,
I think one day it'll come out. It's
almost
true.
guaranteed.
Yeah, I think
pretty
it's
high
true.
up there
And one day it will come out as true.
that we did not even.
Yeah.
we didn't make it. That's
It's
what
probably
I
like
think
20 or 30 years, but I think
Yeah, I'd probably say about the same, an 8, maybe
Yeah.
maybe a 9, an 8. Yeah, I'd do an 8, just because it's the number one thing that gets me is the way those guys looked when they interviewed. They look like they just killed. It's
yeah, it
just
looks like they're on
they-
trial for murder
yeah,
and they know they're guilty.
Yeah, and they know they're guilty. It's terrible.
And they got caught.
Yeah. And then now these are like honorable guys typically who now have to lie, but it's for a good reason. And that's why.
Yeah, they're having a hard time wrapping their head around it.
But over the years, I think they've gotten used to it and they're just like, just whatever, dude. Just whatever. It was for a good cause.
Yeah, it's weird that Buzz went like super alcoholic after that.
Yeah.
And then
But who knows? But that's what it looks like. So.
yeah, so I think that's pretty much going to wrap this one up. If you guys liked the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. But we'll see you guys in the next video.
Yep.
Later.
Laters.